Braylon, your former teammate making some news today. Hank Fraley.
Good old Hank.
You played with him in Cleveland?
I did. I played with him in Cleveland. He came over from Philly. He was out in Philly. He was there for the Super Bowl run with D. McNabb and the infamous T.O. situation. He was there. Then he came over to Cleveland kind of as a leader, if you will. That was his role and why he was brought in. So, yeah.
So, Lions offensive line coach Hank Fraley had some interesting things to say this morning about the Lions offensive line situation. So this is a tweet from Corey Woods on Twitter. Corey says, Detroit Lions offensive line coach Hank Fraley put to bed any talk of a Taylor Decker-Penei Sewell swap at left tackle once Decker returns. Says Sewell is the right tackle, Decker is the left tackle, but with Decker out, Sewell is the man. Tom Mazaway, interesting that you'd get that today.
Especially since the other day when we heard on Monday on the press conference with our own head coach Dan Campbell, someone asked him about that, and he's like, that's just too far away to even think about it right now. But this was what he sounded like today. Hank Fraley, check it out.
I'll just be honest, there's been no discussion on that stuff. And there's not, when we cross that road, or that bridge, but right now, Taylor, in my mind, is our left tackle, and Penei's our right tackle, and Taylor's not playing, Penei's the left tackle, and Matt Nelson's the right tackle, so that's how we're doing things, and, he's done a nice job,
Yeah, so I don't know if you were able to make that out or not, but basically that was almost like me saying wide receiver yesterday.
I think I heard you a little bit better than I heard Hank.
But nonetheless, Hank Fraley really putting the kibosh on that, which is a direct. Are we parsing Dan Campbell's words or not? I mean, here's what Dan Campbell had to say about the swap, Sewell and Decker, just yesterday.
And as when Decker returns, Dan Campbell was surprisingly non-committal.
We're so far away from that right now. We're just, how do we put the best lineup out there for Green Bay right now? And, we'll worry about that when Decker comes back. But right now, I know that we feel good with Sewell being at left. We asked him to move over there, and he accepted the challenge, did well, and we're going to need another good performance out of him because these guys, they've got some good players over there as well, good rushers.
So that video, courtesy of Brad Galley at Channel 7 in Detroit. And look, we like to parse words. Dan Campbell was very non-committal about that. Hank Fraley basically said, and I don't know if he has the authority to make these kind of decisions, but to say that Penei Sewell is our right tackle and Taylor Decker is our left tackle, I think is a bad move. For the first time, I will criticize this Lions coaching staff. I think that's a bad thing to say. I think that would be a bad move.
Well, Fraley, not the whole staff.
Fraley. But, it's a representation of Dan Campbell and the Lions organization and being on the same page. I think for the first time, this coaching staff has done something that is a bad move and to me.
Yeah, 1,000%. You want to be on the same page. You want to go in there as a unified front. Today is Thursday. This is a conversation that's been had, Maz. It's been had so far this week. Everyone's talked about how well he played on the left side versus how he played in the preseason on the right side. So this conversation has been going on all week. I don't like the move of Hank Fraley not being on the same page as Coach Campbell and saying that there's no way that he's going to move to left tackle full-time when Decker comes back. We don't know when Decker's coming back. We don't know how he's going to come back. I think for Fraley, it's one of those moves where you just try to dispel myths. That way people aren't thinking about too much, be it Penei Sewell, be it the other offensive line, be it Taylor Decker at home. That could be something that he's hearing, and he's at home if he's not hearing a clarification on it. Now he's thinking one thing, and it's not exactly what the Lions told me when I signed that big deal. So I think Hank was maybe more so trying to do that, and Coach Fraley, by Hank, but I don't like it. I think you need to be on the same page. You need to be that unified front. And this might be, like you said, this might be the first slip-up they've had, but it was just that. It was a slip-up, no cause for concern.
So they should go after Campbell now and say, hey, Fraley said X. What do you say? And I'm sure he'd say, well, I thought maybe he'd go back on his words. I don't know. I think he'd probably reiterate what he said on Monday, saying it's too early. Don't ask me that right now. Let's just win against Green Bay.
And again, that's what he should say, and I think that's really what everybody has to say. And again, I don't want to freak out and say that, Hank Fraley is going to make this unilateral decision and just make Taylor Decker the left tackle and Penei Sewell the right tackle. But I think the reason why this is such a big topic of conversation in Detroit for fans, for people like you and me, is because this is a symbolic move, I think, of an organization in what they can do. And I mean that in all sincerity, because this is one game that Penei Sewell played at left tackle. Maybe he gets blown up this week against Green Bay. We don't know, and we don't know what we're talking about. But I do think it's worth looking at over the next 2 weeks, because we know that Sewell will be the left tackle for at least the next 2 weeks until Decker is ready to come, or at least is eligible to come off of IR.
Yeah.
I mean, can we just wait and see how that goes first?
I think if this was another position, if this was another player that maybe was a third-round draft pick, or maybe was a guy that we picked up and he worked his way into that position and he moved over and he had a pretty good game. But you're talking about a guy that you really wanted. You're talking about a guy that as soon as he was drafted, am I wrong? They were talking about Hall of Fame. He had the potential to have one of those type of careers. And then you see him on the right side. You move him. You see him in action. And this is a guy you drive highly. You think highly of. And he looked bad. He looked awful. He looked like he really couldn't get it going. He just looked out of sorts. And we knew he would figure it out at some point. But it didn't look like the Hall of Fame guy that we thought we were going to get. You move him over to left tackle, which, by the way, is where he played his whole life and his whole career. And you see, that's what they meant when they said this guy could play. Penei Sewell could be a Hall of Famer. He's going against Nick Bosa. That's not easy. Week 1 Nick Bosa, that's not easy, especially after you moved. So I don't think what we're doing, or what the Lions fans are doing with the faithful or the journalists, in asking this question, phrasing this question after 1 week, I don't think we're doing too much, because I think this is what we wanted to see in a first-round draft pick, especially a lottery pick. So I don't know, man.
Braylon, not only is it a first-round draft pick, this is a very high first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
And what you saw was potentially, organization changing. You may have one of those organizational talents on the left side. I got to take a break, but when we come back, I'm going to make a comparison for you that really proves to me that you've got to keep this open. You've got to at least keep this option open, and don't close any doors as you try to get good quickly.
Don't try to make yourself right.
Yes.
Don't try to make yourself right. I agree with you 100%. Right. Don't try to make yourself right, like, we have to make that move work so that we can prove that we were right. Hey, sometimes you're wrong. Move forward.
That's exactly right. Hank Fraley, the offensive line coach for the Detroit Lions, said today that Taylor Decker is the left tackle and Penei Sewell is the right tackle when Decker comes back. I think that's the wrong thing to say, and I'll tell you why, Braylon.
Please do.
A perfect example is this. You only have to go back a couple of years in your own organization to look and see. Back in 2018, the Detroit Lions drafted Frank Ragnow, who was a center in college, one of the best centers in all of college football, the best center in all of college football. When they drafted him, they had a center in Graham Glasgow. Frank Ragnow's rookie season with the Detroit Lions, they moved him, took him away from his natural position and made him a right guard.
Yep.
He started all 16 games his rookie season at right guard, and he played fine. He was a fine right guard. In year 2, what had happened was they took Glasgow and made him the right tackle, the right guard, and moved Ragnow back to his normal position, and all he happened to do within 2 years was to make a Pro Bowl team and to be a second-team All-Pro at that position.
It's not bad.
So you have that in your own organization.
You've seen it.
You have seen it, and I think Sewell, while he could be a fine right tackle, he could be an elite
in
All-Pro.
3 years, 4 years, how long, though?
Exactly. He could be an elite All-Pro left tackle. And if you could have and Decker is fine. He's a very serviceable NFL left tackle. Very serviceable.
Lineman. Let's just call him a lineman.
Lineman. Very serviceable. But he's been in the league for 6 years. This is his 6th year. And how many Pro Bowls has he made?
None.
Zotsky.
Yeah.
So, again, I'm not trying to knock Taylor Decker down. He's fine. Very good. But if you have an opportunity to have an organizational, all-pro type left tackle talent in Penei Sewell, why would you stunt that growth?
Yeah, and
why would you stunt that growth?
I think it goes back to Hank Fraley not being on the same page. I think making an instinction call on his own, what he thought the soundbite should be or what he think the process is. And you're not the head coach. You're not the GM. Like, this isn't your call to make. He should have kept it vanilla, much as they've been doing around the Lions, the Lions organization this offseason and preseason, the beginning of the year. You should have kept it like, hey, right now, he's played well at the left tackle. Decker's not here, so we're just going to focus on Penei being that left tackle. He's doing well for us. He performed well against the 49ers. Let's keep that going. Let's keep our line play up. We ran the ball really well. I'm not ran the ball well. We had some good runs, but we blocked well in the passing game when we needed it. Let's focus on that. Like, that should be the answer. Then you don't even have to think about that. We're not having this conversation because, to your point, Taylor Decker hasn't had a Joe Thomas type career.
Right.
When Joe came out on fire every year as a Pro Bowl, he didn't come out like Orlando Pace. He didn't come out like Reuben Brown. So, to me, it's an option. Like, to me, there's some wiggle room there. To me, if he hasn't done that at this level, just move him over. Why can't we move him over? What's the big deal?
Couldn't agree more.
So, it was a mistake. It was a flub up. Let's call it Hank flubbed up. But we'll see what the Lions organization, where they move forward, how they handle this situation after Monday Night Football.
I went back and watched the Lion game last night, the second half. And I watched Jeff Okudah on the plays he got in. He made some pretty good plays towards the end of the fourth quarter until he got hurt. They even mentioned it on the air. I forgot who, but Mark Sanchez even mentioned it. Hey, Okudah, look how he came back after Aubrey Pleasant yelled at him, hugged him, and now look at him, because he did mention that. So don't think the national guys missed that. They got it. Mark Sanchez caught all of it. What I wanted to bring Okudah up for is we saw what he did last year as the number 3 pick in the draft, and he wasn't very good. We all said it. He just was not Deion Sanders. We knew that. You put this kid in, Penei Sewell, his first game, after never practicing it, at left tackle the entire summer, and he looked like he didn't miss a beat. So you already know that guy, we picked him right. Okudah, we might have jumped on him.
And two, Maz and Braylon, one of the things with this organization is we want to see something different from these guys, this group, this regime, that we have not seen from other Lions regimes. And that is simply, who cares about your feelings? Who cares how much money you make? We are going to play the best players at the positions that they're comfortable with, or whatever. We're going to play the best player at every position. That's what we're going to do. We don't care where you were drafted. We don't care what your contract says. We don't care how many years you've been with the organization. We do not care what you think. This regime is playing the best players at those positions. And I think this is one of those really early indications of what kind of regime this is going to be. And that being said, now Penei Sewell, after dominating Nick Bosa, and I don't use that word lightly, after dominating Nick Bosa, I don't think he's going to get blown up in the next 2 games. He's probably going to, now having played on the left side, be a road grader. You know what I mean? Be an absolute wall there. Be that blindside blocker that Jared Goff needs and that we here in Detroit expect him to be. So I only think this is going to be an even bigger hot-button topic for the Detroit Lions moving forward.
Based off how Dan Campbell talks, and he talked about it when he was making cuts during preseason, the guys he brought in for training camp, the guys that he brought in after waiver wires were passed, he always talks about our guys having our guys, the type of guys that are going to play Lions football, the type of football we want to see. And it echoes what you're saying. That's why I said Coach Fraley made a mistake, because Lions football as it relates right now, step up, who's making plays? Who's ready? Who's dialed in? Like, who can I trust? Who can I trust in? I think a big thing for a team like this that's kind of really starting over, they're revamping with the exception of Jared Goff and a couple other players. This team and this system and this organization is starting over. When you start over in anything, you want to know who can you trust. Like, who can I trust? Who do I know is going to know the playbook? Who do I know that's going to be there? They're not going to make mistakes. They're going to be the type of player we want to. I can count on them. Being able to be counted on and trusted, that's what Penei Sewell is showing you at the left tackle position. So if that's the message, that at least that's what I took out of Dan Campbell from January to now, that's the message that I've gotten. If that message holds true, then Penei Sewell's your left tackle moving forward.
Yeah, it's such an important decision just to get an indication of what this regime is going to be like. Guys, I want to get into some Calvin Johnson. He made news over the last 24 hours as well, and this is a fight between him and the organization.